Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about DC Animation's Tomorrowverse. So the Tomorrowverse came out in 2020 and it was the combined universe of the DC AU and the DC what's that one called? I forget. It's so confusing. The other one that's based off the new 52 ones. I can't remember. It's like another C or another A or something or another U in there or something crap like that. I don't know. It's stupid. Anyways, basically what I like to dub as the classic DC animated movies and the new 52 animated movies. And so, I think that's what it is. It's DCU and DCAU. So anyway, and so they combine those to do kind of like this another Flashpoint type thing and create the Tomorrowverse. Why? Because after the classic DC movies, they wanted to go the new 52 route to be more in line with that of the comics and base those movies off those comic books. However, there is a huge problem. Fans, just like with the new 52 comics, did not like the DCAU. Mainly because they didn't really like the new voice cast. They didn't like it was a shared universe. And more importantly, it carried on the same art style with each movie. And fans did not like that. Also, they had, it was more like, it was too over the top action. And it wasn't enough story. Not only that, but the cursing got like ridiculous in those new 52 movies, and so did the blood and the gore. Now, the classic DC movies, they had cussing, they had blood, they had this and that, but not as gruesome as the new 52 movies and stuff. So, with the decline in sales, because starting with the Aquaman animated movie, the Justice League Aquaman movie, whatever they called it, sales started to decline big time. When they first started, they was in like the 100,000s. And then somewhere in the classic ones, they was just like steady around 80,000, 70,000, 60,000. But once they got into the new 52 stuff, it started to dip in the 500,000s and in the 50,000s and like the 40,000 mark. And so even getting to the point of 20,000 at one point. And so they knew they needed to clean stuff up. A lot of fans just wasn't happy, so they got rid of that universe and created Tomorrowverse, starting with Superman. And I know a lot of people like the Tomorrowverse, but honestly, for me, I can't stand it. I have tried my extreme best to get into it, and I can't. I don't own none of the DVDs for the Tomorrowverse. Now, the Tomorrowverse movies mostly range from that of the Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Batman Long Halloween, the Adam Strange showcase movie, Justice Society of World War II, Green Lantern, Beware My Power, and the newer ones that's coming out, the Legion of Superheroes, Batman Doom or Gloom or whatever it's called, and that Superman War World movie. Those are the three that's supposed to come out now. Now, when it comes to Catwoman Haunted and the Injustice thing, and what is it? The Superboy, Robin, Super Sons or whatever it's called, that's standalone. However, even though they're standalone, only the Catwoman Haunted movie has a different art style. It's based in anime, whereas the Injustice and the Super Son thing, they had the same art style as the Tomorrowverse, which is very confusing. And so with me, like I said before, I honestly, God, tried my hardest to get into those movies, but I can't. And it was with the Green Lantern one I just watched that way I said, you know what? I throw my hands up in the air and I am done. I just can't, I have to admit that I just can't get into these new set of movies. It's just very disappointing because I own so many DC animated movies. They are golden in my opinion. If you're as old as me, then you know back in the 90s, Marvel dominated the animated business. They had animated cartoons from here to there, and DC barely had any. It was around the 2000s is when things switched. Marvel went bankrupt, and DC started bringing out new animated shows, and then they dominated. Once that animated universe was over with, they decided to go into the animated movie route. And there we had, it always starts, well, no, it don't always start with Superman, but it started with Superman. Superman Doomsday, I believe. And, the great thing about the classic DCU movies were that, was it DCAU? Was it? See, I can't remember. I'm just gonna call it the classic DC movies. All right, I can't remember which is which. The great thing about these movies is that every movie had its own unique art style. So if you didn't like one art style from like one movie, you can just like another and stuff. Like take Superman versus the Elite. I love that movie to death. It's one of the better Superman movies. When they started doing the whole live action Superman movies, I wanted them to adapt that so bad. But there's no way they're going to be able to do that when Henry Cavill snapping Zod's neck. And also leaving people to die and not rescuing them. So needless to say, we will never get like a Superman versus the Elite type thing because too many people in the DC EU kill people. And so like, but it's a great movie, but I hate the animation style to it. The animation just looks ugly, but I love that movie to death. And and another great thing about the classic DC movies was they had a different voice cast for a lot of their movies. Sometimes they would reuse the same person, like the same Superman or the same Batman, and sometimes the same Wonder Woman. But for the most part, when they kept switching it in and out, they would use somebody completely different. And it was always refreshing to hear a different like voice of a superhero you love. That was so great about it. And more importantly, they were all based on classic DC comics. One comic and everything, not multiple ones, but one. That was so great. Then we get into the New 52 stuff. And they wanted to make a shared universe, kind of like the DCEU. All right, like whatever. And then so the first movie was pretty good, but fans quickly noticed that these movies didn't really dial into that of story that much. There would be a story, but it would be very it wouldn't take up the whole movie. What would take up the whole movie would be the action. And the action was amazing. It was very good choreographed. Now, the classic DC movies had great action as well. But the New 52 ones, their action was like something off live action. And it was just amazing. However, fans did not like the voice cast for a lot of these people, and they got tired of hearing the same voices over and over and over again, and they got tired of seeing the same art style as well. To make matters worse is that at first they were based off of the New 52 movies, not movies, but comics, but then the New 52 comics kind of like tanked, and so they stopped basing them off that. And then what did they base them off of? Classic DC movies. So it was weird seeing these classic stories being told with the New 52 art style. And then they kept changing like the endings to them, which really pissed a lot of fans off and stuff, especially with Batman Hush. Not only that, but just like with typical live action DC movies, they kept focusing on Batman and Superman solely. Every once in a while, you'll see Wonder Woman pop up, but not really, and mostly the Justice League, but it was always Batman and Superman. They had a Justice League Dark, but then they added Batman to the mix. It got very frustrating. And so, like, with the decline in the New 52, Something else fans didn't like about it. I forgot what. Oh, like I said before, a lot of the cussing, a lot of the blood, and a lot of the gore. They even started to push the nudity in the sex. And fans were just kind of like, whoa, what the world is this all about? And it's kind of like we have to let little kids see this too. And a lot of people didn't want that to happen. So they didn't want their kids to see like all this nudity and sex and all this other weird stuff and a lot of cursing and stuff like that. Now, Bruce Timm was in charge of the classic DC movies, and James Tucker was in charge of the New 52. And then what made things even worse for the New 52 movies is that some of them towards the end were like original movies written. They were no longer based on comics, and that took the fun out of it. For me, I don't read comics, so it was fun seeing this comic come to life, and now I finally, in a way, got to like see it, but just like, in a different form. Then with the ones if they didn't base it off of a classic comic, and if they didn't do their own like, movie, what they would do is combine multiple comics. And that was the biggest mistake they did, which brings us now into the Tomorrowverse. After the failure of the New 52 movies, they created a Tomorrowverse. A reboot thing, Flashpoint thing, if you will. And so with that, they wanted once again to make their own shared universe. So once again, we got the same voice cast. We got the same type of animation. And it focuses more on story, but a very bleak story. And it's supposed to be the formation of the Justice League once again. However, with the Green Lantern movie that just came out, the Justice League has now already been formed. So it's been formed off camera. And the voice cast, in my opinion, is not that stellar. The art style is not that stellar. The action is not that stellar. And the pacing and everything else just isn't that stellar. What makes things worse is that a lot of these aren't based on just one comic, they're based on multiple comics. So with the Green Lantern one, you have a little bit of the New 52, a little bit of the classic comics, and whatever else. And even in some of the Golden Age comics. And it gets confusing. The Green Lantern movie is like terrible. It's not even based on Jon Stewart, and it's supposed to be. And the problem I'm having is like, which I'm going to break down soon, is just, it's dull and it's boring. And not only that, but the color palette is very muted. And so it's doing that like live action type of like Titans thing where the color palette is muted and you just feel bored. And so with the Tomorrowverse thing, they have 3 showrunners that pretty much take control of it. It's Sam Register, which he's best known for mostly doing Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry stuff. So yeah. Then you have Jim Craig, who I have no idea who that is. And then you have Kimberly S. Monroe, and I don't really know who that is, but she mostly does all the Batman stuff and the Tomorrowverse stuff, and it's just not working for me. It really just isn't. Another problem I'm having is the director. They're only directed by 2 different people, Chris Plummer and Jeff Wamster. And you need different directors. That's what was so great about the older DC animated movies. They had different writers, they had different directors, because people have different styles. But because of this new shared universe, they're just keeping the same people. And for me, it's just not clicking and stuff. One of the problems I'm having with the Tomorrowverse is that they don't even feel like animated projects. They feel like live action writing and direction, but set in an animated world. And to me, that has never worked out very well. Marvel Spider-Man didn't work out that well for me. Now, the only time it ever did was Young Justice Season 1 and Season 2. And the reason why is because they stayed in the realm of an animated type universe and animated type writing and comic book type writing, but then they would add in little nods of maturity in real life stuff. That was a great blend. However, starting with season 3 of Young Justice and onward, it has just focused mainly on trying to be live action and live action only. It doesn't have that nice blend of like maturity, live action storytelling, and animated kid storytelling. And for me, it's just not working out for me and stuff. And that's how these Tomorrowverse movie does. Now, let's just break down some of the stuff that I really hate in the Tomorrowverse. First things first is the animation. I hate it to death. The animation looks boring and bland. It looks like it came straight from a comic, but an old, like, streamlined, modern take on a classic comic panel. It looks like they're cardboard cutouts of a comic book with big, bold black lines and just like no real texture and like the like face or costumes, and it's just like flat and it's stiff. It's like cardboard. And it's like a weird kind of bright kind of muted color palette that's very inked in. There's no real like flow to any of their bodies and stuff. This is shown a lot more when you see like them fighting and them walking and stuff. It feels like flash animation, kinda that cheap flash animation, but also it kind of doesn't. And there are times when they can really bust out the choreography, and there are times when they really can't. And so when people talk, they have no facial expressions. Their mouth just kind of like chatter, and it doesn't really always sync up with that of what the people are saying. And it's very weird and it's very odd. Not to mention, like I said before, the art style is all the same. So there's never no difference. And, so you can have your own preference. Now, another problem I'm having with this is the voice cast. A lot of people don't sound the way they look to me. I miss Andrea Romano. I miss her so much. She was so great. Even that other dude, I think his name was Greg Wiseman, I think. Even he was pretty good in casting people. However, a lot of these newer people that they're casting, once again, are coming from like live action movies and other DC projects, and they're putting them into this. Like they had Matt Bomer as the Flash. He was okay, I think. I don't really remember. But then with the Green Lantern one, the dude who played Hawkeye, not Hawkeye, I'm getting stuff correct. Hawkman and Black Adam, he's voicing this. And some of these people are hit and miss for me. The Hawk girl that they had in the Green Lantern movie, she was a miss for me. And so like, this is the one that hurts the most. Jensen Ackles, man. I'm a huge fan of that dude, but I do not like his Batman portrayal. I don't like his Batman voice. And even though Injustice is not like part of the Tomorrowverse, Ensign Mount, I did not like him as Batman, which is strange because I always assumed he would be a great Batman either in animation or live action. And I just did not like his voice. And so with me, if the people don't sound cool going along with the animation and animation don't look cool, it's just a bummer for me. Another problem is the story. I don't remember none of these movies, to tell you the truth. Superman, Man of Tomorrow, I don't remember that. I remember it was an origin story. I remember it was a very bleak story. I remember Lobo now being in there because I just re-looked it up. I forgot he was in there. I know, man, the Martian Manhunter is in there. And Parasite. But other than that, I don't remember nothing. Like, I really don't. And as for the Justice Society in World War II, I just remember World War II and the Flash going to the alternate reality. And that's it. I don't remember nothing else. And I remember Batman Long Halloween because it feels like Batman Phantasm, which I said, Jeff Loeb pretty much just copied that movie. So like, that's all I really remember. And then I just watched the Green Lantern one, and I wish I never did. And so I remember the story with that is it's supposed to focus on John Stewart, but it doesn't. It focuses on Adam Strange and Hawk Girl and the problems they're doing. John Stewart is just like there, and he has struggles with PTSD. He got into like a bar fight, but the problem is it doesn't focus on him. The whole movie focuses on just like Hawk Girl and Adam Strange and how Jordan turned into Parallax and everything. And it was like the weirdest twist that came out of nowhere. And I'm like, how can you make a movie about Jon Stewart and Jon Stewart isn't even the main focus of it? None of the characters act the way they should. Jon Stewart is just bored and depressed in the entire movie. And he sounds bored and depressed in the entire movie. Hot Girl sounds like an idiot warrior. And Adam Strange just sounds like an old man you wish would shut up. And so, story-wise, these movies just aren't doing it for me because they're too bleak and they're too boring. And even when they do get interesting, they quickly get back to being bleak and boring. And then there's the action. What action? There's barely any action. Sometimes there is action, and like it just doesn't. It will look a little impressive sometimes, but not really. The action scenes are very quick, and they go by very fast. And for me, I love action. That's one of the greater things about the animation in these movies is that they can do more than live action. And now they're coming out with 3 new movies, and I really don't care. I don't want to see another Batman movie. I don't want to see another Superman movie. And what did I say what the other one was about? You know what? I forgot. It's just seriously, I just forgot. And it's almost like there's no passion for these movies anymore. Like the people who's creating them, they created other stuff before, but it's clear that they haven't done much comic book stuff. Like the dude Sam, like that dude, I'm not kidding. I looked at his resume. He's mostly done like, Tom and Jerry stuff and a lot of Scooby Doo stuff. And he did Batman versus the Ninja Turtles thing, which was a great movie. But, other than that, like I just don't like his other stuff. And it's sad when there's no passion behind these movies. I don't really even see nobody talking about the Tomorrowverse that much. You rarely see anybody talk about these movies. Now, a lot of people do like these movies, like I said, but I just don't. I can't get into them at all. And it sucks because I'm a huge comic book, like animated fan. You know what I'm saying? They're better than live action at times. And it just sucks to see them go the way that they are because even with the new 52 not being perfect, it was still a whole lot better than this. And my God, I miss the classic DC animated movies so much. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.